Y'all squared away, Cap?
Morning, John. Hey, funny enough,
Yeah.
I'm a European soccer player, and that never happened to me.
Well, this is the thing that gets me, especially in the current economy, is that it seems like the values of let's just say Premier League players, for lack of a better example, the self-inflated values are things that just it should surprise me, but it doesn't. It's like, okay, our team got relegated, and now this guy, he's worth 50, even though we got relegated. No, he's worth 40. This guy's worth 30. This one's worth 40. You got relegated, and you're still wanting to charge all of these fees. It's just the economics in European football these days. They're quite enamored with themselves, and people still pay the prices.
Yeah. English football is out of hand. It's unbelievable. They skew the market. I mean, English players in England. Oh my God, that's even more ridiculous.
See, I mean, I'm right there with you. I mean, it is. You're like I said. I would say that you should be shocked by these kinds of things, but yes, skewing the marketplace and making it more expensive for the rest of us to function. It's like, yeah, I want to bring in this player from England over to Major League Soccer. $11 billion.
Saudi Arabia is doing it now. I mean,
yeah. I mean, what do you? All right. So since you've gone there, I'll open this door before we get into discussing about mentoring and things like that. Do you even care about the Saudi Pro League?
Nope.
Not going to watch it. Don't care. Overinflated dudes getting paid like 9-figure salaries. You don't care.
0%. Same as 5 years ago when they were all going to China. Nobody watched the Chinese league, did they?
No, I didn't. I had zero interest. And besides, we'd have to get up at like 2:00 in the morning to see something at 7:00 at night. I'm not going to do that. I'm not 20 something anymore. I'm not going to come home from, doing whatever it was on a Friday night, Saturday morning, Saturday evening. Oh, let's watch the Chinese Super League. No, that's not going to happen. So
I'm very confident that I'll watch 0 minutes of the Saudi league.
How much of the Women's World Cup have you watched?
I watched the entirety of the Australia-England game the other day.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a good game. It was entertaining. I enjoyed it. So yeah, a good amount, more of this World Cup than any other Women's World Cup that probably.
When you look at the game, the women's game and how it's advanced, even just over from World Cup cycle to World Cup cycle, what has it been like for you to see where the women's game is now internationally from where it's been in the past?
Yeah, it's incredible because, I'll be completely honest, going into the World Cup, my knowledge of the women's game was not very high, and I filled out a bracket and I found myself basically just picking the favorite, right? Because I think that's how women's soccer and even a lot of women's sports probably for a while have just been like, you can just pick the chalk, and usually, right, you get an upset every now and then. But I feel like this World Cup, it's been, apparent how the game is growing worldwide, and a ton of countries that you never equated with women's soccer are now making a name for themselves and putting themselves on the map and having success. And it's fantastic. And I think the men's game has been more like that for a little bit now, and that's growing rapidly. And the women's game now is same sphere. So that's fantastic. It really is. And that one thing about the women's game that I love and I respect the heck out of is how they get on with it. Right? There is like very, very little like flailing around on the ground, time wasting. They have these hard challenges and go on the ground, and it's like they're up and on with it. And it's just, that part of it is so refreshing to watch.
And I think that with the world ability, we always, because of what the United States has been able to accomplish in the Women's World Cup over the last really since the Women's World Cup began, 2 times in a row, chasing after a third coming into this tournament, and seeing the world, the margins are gone. I mean, it's like the U.S. used to be able to sit there and just out ability, out physical, whatever, and they could persevere and get a win. those margins do not exist anymore. And yesterday, Vlatko ended up being Vlat gone because of what did not happen in this particular tournament with the world closing in on the U.S.
Yeah, and it's not surprising. I mean, the stakes are really high when you're back-to-back world champions. Right? There's a high bar there, and honestly, had he not got to the final, I mean, you'd expect that he'd probably be gone, and that's just the way it is. And as unfair as that might be, but that's where the women's game is right now. In women's game, I mean, U.S. soccer women's, and hopefully we can get back there and no longer. I mean, not that it's been easy, because that takes away from the talent and the determination and everything that the women here in the U.S. have put into the game, for a while now. But there are far more many countries out there that are have the ability now to advance far in a World Cup. And so the task is only going to get tougher.
When it comes to, mentoring, we've had the discussion in the past that there right now are more male athletes that you mentor than female athletes. But what has it been like to see these female athletes just sit there and want to be a part of this process and want to be mentored and see their games grow and evolve? What's it been like for you and Greg as mentors to have mentees not just be boys or young men, but girls and young women?
Yeah, it's awesome. And I will say that, like, even though it's been a smaller percentage, given those percentages, typically the girls are more resilient and not necessarily taking in the information better, but just a more outgoing of asking questions, and resilient as far as like taking the criticism and learning from it, and going out there and going again and going again. That's what I've found through my own experience.
I mean, it sounds like that when it comes to the information, they absorb it. The way that you're presenting it, they absorb the information and want to continue to learn and learn and learn until they get it correct. Am I off there? That they seem to be absorbing the information and want to go after it until they get it right.
Correct. And then maybe it's because usually the women and girls that we work with are high level for their age, and some of the boys are high level, and some of them are trying to get to that higher level. So maybe that's a difference as well. But yeah, they've got a great mentality, and you can see that on the field when you watch the World Cup. Right, these women have a tremendous mentality of just persevering and keeping going, and their fitness level is incredible. The amount that they run and they just keep going, it's unbelievable. But then just the toughness, like I said, just the challenges and getting on with it, and like, oh, no one's going to feel bad for me. Like, just get up and keep going.
When it comes to you and Greg as mentors, how much do you learn from your mentees that you may not have necessarily known going into a mentoring situation? How much of this is that two-way street?
Yeah, we learn. I mean, you try not to have any bias, right, going into a conversation, but human nature, you always have a small amount of bias, and sometimes you're just not expecting either the child to be that outgoing or that just aware of his or her surroundings or the mental side of the game or what they're going through. And so some of the players just are kind of like, you're just like, wow, like, you're so mature for your age. And it's refreshing to see, because just out in society you see so much immaturity, not only from children but from adults as well. Yeah. So you get some of these opportunities with kids, and they just awe you sometimes of like, gosh, they get it and they see it, and they understand it, and they're asking questions of how to deal with teammates that don't, and how do you get on with that, and how do you help them versus ignore them, and things like that. So it's always open to learning, for sure.
do do the younger athletes that you're dealing with today as mentees, do they compartmentalize better maybe than other generations, or is that just something that is a part of what you're experiencing currently, where the young athlete can kind of take all the noise from external factors, including their parents, put it to the side and want to lock in on what you and Greg and Beyond Goals are trying to teach? Do they compartmentalize better or well than other generations, maybe?
I don't know, honestly. I think that a lot of our athletes, and when you're younger, it's so much easier. There's less you have to compartmentalize, right? There's just less adulting type stuff that you have to deal with, right?
You just have to deal with the adults, yeah.
Which can be a lot. But yeah, there's just less responsibility outside of the field that, you have to put to the side and get on with later on. So, I'm not sure yet, because a lot of our mentees are, probably under the age of 16. And, when you hit high school, you've got more stuff going on off the field, with relationships and school and college decisions and, more responsibilities. And with that comes the more necessary need to compartmentalize so that you can focus on soccer when it's time to focus on soccer.
How much conversation do you have? I guess you can break this into percentages if you want, but how much of your mentoring is on the field mentoring about, how to perform on the field? And then how much of your mentoring is off the field mentoring about navigating, life's troubles as a teenager, navigating academics, trying to determine if you are an amazingly talented athlete, whether or not you're going to college versus going for pro? How much of your mentoring are conversations about what you're doing as an athlete, and then how much of it is off the field stuff?
That's a good question. It's close to 50-50. It might sway a little bit more off. I don't know. But it's tough because there's a lot of things that we talk about off the field that help them on the field as well. And so there's a decent amount, right? Because you think that, performance on the field is just about, passing the ball, receiving the ball, running, scoring, all those things, right? But, we're trying to teach them like, hey, yes, that stuff is important for sure, right? But all of these things you do off the field in preparation and will help you on the field, right? And so having those conversations, connecting the dots is a big thing that we focus on with our mentees.
When you were that age, when you were the age of your mentees, how much of your conversations were about on the field versus off the field with your mentors?
Very little. Yeah, very little. I think in high school when I went down to IMG, it was kind of the first time I started talking about like nutrition, the mental side of the game, and kind of the holistic picture of things.
Mm-hmm.
But before that, very, very little.
So when you went down to IMG, and IMG is known as a factory. I mean, literally, it is the best of the best. It is all-star teams versus all-star teams, and you're either looking at it from a football perspective. You're at IMG A or IMG B. You're trying to find games. People don't want to play you. You end up playing yourselves. I mean, how much of a learning experience is that when you go to an IMG where it is the best of the best and you get the additional holistic material and the off the field stuff where it's not just getting drilled and it's like, you've got to be the best, you've got to do this, you've got to score goals, or you've got to defend? What was that like to get that additional part where IMG is introducing you to this whole picture, but you're having to do it against others who are the best at what they did?
Yeah, I mean, I was very fortunate that I was introduced to a lot of those things at that age, right? Where we're learning how to run properly and quickness and first step and doing things in the gym.
Run properly?
Well, just technique wise.
Yeah. I mean, it's like not like, so what, lurching forward and just, running? There's actually a way to run.
there is a proper way to run. Now we all have our own way, and that's one of the, I don't want to say gimmicks, but you can't completely teach someone how to run, and you can't completely teach someone how to be faster, right? If you're fast, you're fast. If you're slow, you're slow. Can you get a little bit faster and a little bit quicker? Yes, absolutely. But you're not going to go from slow to I'm the fastest player on my team or in my school or whatever, right? There's minor things, right? And same thing with technique, right? You're not going to just overhaul your technique of running at the age of 16. It's just impossible, but you can incorporate little things that if you do it enough times, right, your brain understands it and starts to do it instantaneously.
I know that for somebody like me who doesn't really run for a living, it's kind of a new piece of news where there is actual technique where if your back is at an 85-degree angle, then as opposed to a 96-degree angle, then you're adding that much of wind resistance and can improve your times and those kinds of things. I mean, it seems like that kind of an experience and having that kind of information. At the time, it sounded like, man, this is like revelatory stuff. But now it seems like there's a lot of folks that can really analyze those kinds of things. What was it like when people are sitting next to saying, no, you're running wrong. Do this, and do this. I mean, it's obviously, you mentioned conditioning for the brain, and it's like, okay, over time, I get it. But the first time that you get that piece of information, no, Michael, you're running wrong. And then they teach you something. What's it like to sit there and have somebody be that analytical about your approach?
Yeah, and it's not quite, that. It's more like working on the technique of getting your toes up and getting your knees higher, and what you said of a lean when you're, especially in the beginning of your run, getting this proper lean before you stand up too straight and things like that. It's not like they're analyzing everyone. It's more, hey, these are some things to work on that'll help your power, explosiveness. And like I said, you hope that if you repeat it, 1,000 times, you'll start to incorporate it. But it's not something that when I was out there on the soccer field, I was like, oh, remember to get your toe up and get your knee up higher, right? You didn't have time to do that stuff. So, but the repetitiveness of 4 years of doing it, a few times a week, you hope that it helps.
Have you taken that information and applied that forward to your mentees? You sit there and it's like, oh yeah, I remember this. Hey, do this, and do this. Has that information still stuck in your brain, and do you get to process it forward now?
I definitely don't tell any of my mentees how to run, for sure. That is 100% true, that I will not do that. But for sure, there's, things that I learned at that age of like, because a lot of kids don't have guidance in physical training, right? Of weight room, of core work, of stability, when to start those things, how to start those things. And that's really important when you hit the age of 14, 15 years old, when you start to introduce those things of, you have to start to get stronger and build the muscles. And how do you do that? And where do you start? And how much? And proper technique and that type of stuff. So we do try and help out a little bit with that, or I'll share videos on YouTube that I think are beneficial, just so that they're kind of in the right direction of starting off. But no, I know where my lane is and where my lane isn't, John. So try and stay in it.
So what YouTube videos do you give to your mentees as required viewing when it comes to trying to improve themselves? Or is it games? Is it individuals? Is it how-tos? Is it like the guy that would help Fred McGriff with baseball? Those kinds of things. I mean, what's the viewing habits here? What do you having them looking?
On YouTube, you mean?
Yeah, on YouTube, yeah.
Yeah, it's more like, hey, if you want to start doing some core work, here's somebody that I like what they're doing. I like their exercises, how they explain it. Or, somebody's saying, I've got back pain, or hey, I've had a lot of hamstring issues, right? What would you suggest? Anything? And it's tough for me to explain the exercises virtually, so I'll just look on YouTube for exercises that I like that someone explains well in a video format, those types of things. Or if somebody wants to work on fitness or shooting or something, I'll look on YouTube to find, because there's a billion videos about every topic, right? And I'm just trying to find ones that I think are like, hey, this is actually legit. Like I like what they're doing, and I like how they explain it, and just trying to share that type of stuff.
How much of an intensive search is that to try to sit there and sort out the wheat from the chaff, and sit there and it's like, okay, this is bogus, don't go here, and you've got to post that warning just as much as you sit there and you go, okay, no, really, go to this video and go to these kinds of folks, don't go over here. How much of a sorting job is that for you and Greg to sit there and make sure that folks have the right information?
Yeah, well, I never share like, hey, don't go to this. I just
Don't go here.
That would waste too much of my time. So it's more, hey, I like this. And for us, I think you can tell pretty quickly in a YouTube video, right? Especially if you fast forward, every couple minutes, hey, does this guy or girl know what they're talking about, or how are they explaining it? Does it make sense? Is it simple enough? Is it slow enough? That type of thing. And some of it depends on what type of athlete you're working with. Is it a high level athlete who understands some of the wording, or is it a youth athlete that doesn't know, what a hamstring curl is yet, or things like that, where you have to find a video that is a slower pace and, starts from the beginning. So those types of little things.
What is a hamstring curl?
Well, you can do it a couple different ways, but the way I like to do it is on laying down on your back with a physio ball under your ankles, and you pop up your torso and then curl the ball towards you.
Okay, I'm trying to envision Michael Parkhurst with a physio ball trying to do these kinds of exercises.
That's my type of exercise, John. Weight.
Right there with you, brother. Usually for me, it's swinging a club or trying to do anything without any kind of weights. Legitimately, and this is probably too much information for everybody here on the show, I literally will stretch for 45 minutes every night before I go to bed.
Good for you.
It is slow, detailed stretches because I end up sleeping like a pretzel anyway, and I would wake up in the morning and it'd be like, hunched over, and it's like the line in Electric Horseman where Jane Fonda looks at Robert Redford first thing in the morning, and she goes, "You look broke," and he said, "Nope, just bent." And traditionally, that's how that's how things are. Abby says, "Remember, Parky has an advantage. His wife is a PT."
Yeah, it's an advantage and a disadvantage sometimes. The disadvantage when she's yelling at me that I'm not doing the other thing. Exactly, Abby. Exactly. More of an advantage than a disadvantage. But I will say, John, I played golf 2 days ago.
Yeah.
2 days ago, and we've had a decent amount of rain up here, so it's cart path only. And when it's cart path only, I walk. And I got home, and well, it was more the next day. So yesterday, my hamstrings were so sore. And I thought, oh my God, this is embarrassing. But I'll share it anyways because I don't care.
More importantly, how did you shoot? Because off the tee, you're not getting a whole lot of carry because of all these kinds of things.
True. I hit the ball really well, actually. I shot 86. For me, it was really good, especially because I'm not a long hitter and I need the roll. So I was very happy with that.
Jordan wants to know, are you in Rhode Island or are you in Ohio? Where are you?
Ohio.
Okay.
So I get Rhode Island every now and then. But over here in Ohio. So yeah, we got the game this weekend, Cincy versus Columbus. So
hell is real and heck is plausible.
And actually, it might have a little. I'm actually, I need to find out. I don't know if Cincinnati comes here the day before, like normal, or just drive up the day of the game because it's a 2-hour drive.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping they come the night before because I'm trying to see if I can have coffee with Alec and possibly Jeff Lorenowitz if he travels with the team. Maybe Brandon Vasquez. Little Atlanta reunion for coffee, maybe on game day.
There you go. This is officially the sprint, so I guess we'll go rapid fire here to wrap up. It's the sprint, 10 matches to go, and each one has its importance, especially if you're trying to chase after either A, a playoff spot, or B, a home playoff game. What is this kind of a sprint like, knowing that the number of matches is trimmed each and every time and its importance is amped up for players?
Yeah, I think that it's good. It's good that, hey, every game is super important. So of the utmost focus and intensity. And that's the way it needs to be. I mean, you've put yourself in this situation. So, it is what it is. That being said, I know that it's like 10 finals, but if you don't get a win this weekend, right? It's away to Seattle this weekend.
Yeah, it's away at Seattle. It's a late game on Sunday night.
Yeah, that's a tough game, right? Seattle are very good. It's away, so that's a tough game, right? So if you don't win that game, I hate to say it's 10 finals because you're not going to win all 10 games,
right?
And, if you get 7 out of 10 wins or something like that, you're going to make the playoffs. But I think having that mentality is the right mentality, especially if you didn't have that mentality from the beginning.
And then what's the latest with RIFC? What's the latest there?
Latest with RIFC, not a whole lot. We are trying to put the roster together. Finalized preseason recently, so that's done. And just putting the roster together, figuring out who we can get, who we can't, and we'll see if there's any MLS players or Atlanta 2 players or anything like that are available. Otherwise I'll just go scout Wake Forest and just bring as many Wake Forest guys over as possible.
I figured it'd be Wake North. We got to get Kano on that for a 1v1 as a matter.
Oh yeah, you're right. I do owe you that.
And then also, what's the latest with Beyond Goals before you go?
Beyond Goals. Greg and I were just talking this morning, putting together our presentation. We've got a new university up here in Ohio that we're working with. So Denison University is a D3 school. And so we're working with them throughout the fall. So we're going to have a few in-person meetings with them. They play in the same conference as Otterbein, which is in my back door here. So we're excited about that partnership and see how that goes and see how it is to work with a college team over the course of a season, and then hopefully implement that elsewhere as well.
All right, and Abby, before you go, how do you prepare for the late game on the West Coast, being the game doesn't start till 10:30 East?
Yeah, it's tough. I would always wake up super early in the morning. I just couldn't sleep late no matter what, so that was fine. I would just take like a 2-hour nap in the afternoon, or even if it was 2.5 hours or whatever. I wouldn't, when it was an East Coast game, I would also try and take a nap, but I'd try and limit it to an hour and a half. But a West Coast game, nope. As long a nap as I need, because that's tough. Yeah, I would struggle some East Coast games to stay up for a 7:30 game. I literally remember there was a time where I was like talking to my wife. I was like, we need to stay up later because I am tired for these games, because we were like going to bed at like 9 o'clock. And I was like, we need to stay up later so that I'm a little bit more awake for these games. So the West Coast games and stuff like that.
No doubt. All right. Thanks for hanging out. Go play golf. May the roll be with you, and we will catch up with you soon, my friend.
Sounds good, John. Have a great weekend.